They said he wasn't disciplined enough, they said he lacked focus, they said he wasn't cut out for success, and no one declared it louder than Mrs. Whitman, standing at the front of the classroom with her thin glasses perched on her nose, eyes cold, voice sharper than chalk scraping the blackboard, and in that room sat Jamal, quiet, determined, a boy with fire in his chest and dreams bigger than anyone cared to see. Every question he asked was met with a skeptical glance, every assignment returned with a red mark that seemed to say, "You'll never be enough," and every test result seemed deliberately understated, as if his intelligence had to be denied. While other students received encouragement, Jamal faced doubt, suspicion, a constant reminder that no matter what he did, someone powerful had already decided he couldn't. But Jamal knew the truth. He was capable. Brilliant even. And the problem wasn't him, it was the unwillingness of others to recognize it. Late nights became his sanctuary, hours in the library his rebellion. He filled notebooks with formulas, scribbled solutions until his fingers cramped, memorized every theorem, visualized every equation. His mother watched, tired eyes soft with pride, whispering, "You are not their stereotype, Jamal. You are limitless. One day, you'll show them." And he did. When the statewide exam came, Jamal walked into the hall with shoulders squared, eyes blazing, determination radiating like fire. Mrs. Whitman lingered at the back, smirk intact, waiting for him to stumble, to fail, to prove her assumptions right. But Jamal didn't falter. He didn't just answer questions, he dominated them, every calculation a defiance, every line of math a declaration of his worth. When results were announced, shock rippled through the school. Jamal had scored not just well, not just in the top percentile, but number one in the entire state. The boy they overlooked, dismissed, underestimated, had risen to the very top. Parents called, local papers clamored for his story, even the principal beamed with pride, but Mrs. Whitman froze, her face pale, realizing that every word she had spoken, every doubt she had cast, had been crushed by undeniable proof of his brilliance. In the auditorium, as Jamal was honored, the applause thundered, yet Mrs. Whitman's bitterness only deepened. Her disbelief festered into plotting, whispers began spreading, questioning the legitimacy of his achievement, accusing him of cheating, of deception, and the same students who had once celebrated him began to glance sideways, their admiration tainted by doubt. One night, Jamal sat at his desk, award certificate glowing softly under the lamp, when a message appeared from a blocked number, "Enjoy the spotlight while you can. The truth is coming out." His pulse raced, his hands shook, but he remembered his mother's words, remembered every late night, every sacrifice, every tear shed in silence. He would not be broken. Not by lies, not by prejudice, not by anyone afraid of a young black boy's brilliance. Yet the threat lingered like a shadow, the storm was far from over, and Jamal knew the battle had only begun. The power had shifted, yes, but even at the top, the underdog understood that those who had tried to suppress him were capable of one final, devastating move. And as he stared at the ceiling, mind racing with strategy and fear, Jamal had proven them wrong, but the question remained, could he expose the truth before it was stolen from him? Jamal had faced doubt, prejudice, and the whispers of a teacher who refused to see him for who he was. But now, the storm had reached its peak. The forged emails, the anonymous messages, the subtle poison Mrs. Whitman had spread through the school, they had all coalesced into a single, suffocating cloud over his achievement. His name, once celebrated, was now questioned, and for the first time, the weight of every eye on him, every finger pointing, felt almost unbearable. The school board called an emergency meeting, a panel of administrators, teachers, and local officials gathered around the polished table. Mrs. Whitman sat at the head, her thin lips pressed tight, eyes gleaming with triumph as she slid the fake documents across the table. "These are the facts," she said, voice icy. "It's clear this student could not have achieved these results honestly. The evidence speaks for itself." The room murmured. Some leaned forward, curious, skeptical, eager to see if the boy they once overlooked had actually cheated. Jamal walked in, calm but resolute, every step a testament to the countless hours of study, sacrifice, and sheer determination. His mother stood behind him, hands clasped, her eyes a shield of strength. Jamal placed the envelope of his real study logs, practice exams, timestamps, tutor records, everything that proved the truth of his achievement on the table. "I didn't cheat," he said quietly, but firmly, "I worked. I studied. I stayed awake when it would have been easier to quit. I am here because of effort, not deception." The board flipped through the records, scrolling through files, comparing timestamps, reviewing signatures. The tension was electric, every second dragging as Mrs. Whitman's smirk faltered, then faded. One by one, whispers of disbelief turned to nods of acknowledgement. His proof was airtight. Every accusation she made collapsed under the weight of truth. You did all of this?" one board member asked, astonishment in his voice. Jamal's gaze never wavered. "Yes," he said simply. "All of it. And I did it alone." Mrs. Whitman's face flushed crimson. She sputtered, tried to argue, but the room had already shifted. The board chair leaned forward, voice calm but cutting. "Mrs. Whitman, it appears your claims were unfounded. The evidence confirms Jamal's achievement. I suggest an apology is in order." The smirk that had fueled months of sabotage was gone. Power had shifted completely. Jamal exhaled, the tension leaving his shoulders like a tide retreating. He looked out at the room, at the same teachers who once doubted him, at his peers who had whispered that he couldn't, and for the first time, he felt not just vindicated but untouchable in the truth of his hard work. He turned to Mrs. Whitman, her eyes still flickering with something, rage, shame, or maybe a bitter mixture of both, and said, voice steady, "Doubt me if you like. Call me lucky if you must. But know this, hard work doesn't lie. Effort doesn't cheat. And no one can ever take that away." The board acknowledged his victory officially, and news outlets that had once questioned his legitimacy now ran headlines celebrating him. Underdog triumphs, hard work beats prejudice, Jamal proves them all wrong. Mrs. Whitman faded from the spotlight, her bitterness rendered irrelevant by the undeniable brilliance of the boy she tried to suppress. Weeks later, Jamal walked the halls of his school with his head high. The whispers of doubt were gone, replaced by admiration, respect, even awe. Students approached him, teachers smiled, not all, but enough, and for Jamal, it wasn't just about scoring top in the state. It was about proving that no prejudice, no lie, no shadow of doubt could erase the truth of a young black boy's potential. And as he sat in his room, certificate in hand, letters from universities stacked beside him, his mother beside him, she whispered softly, "You did it. You showed them who you really are." Jamal smiled, eyes glistening, and said, "No, Mom. They didn't just see me. They had to see the truth. And truth is unstoppable. They tried to break him, doubt him, steal his future. But Jamal had one weapon they could never take: effort, integrity, and the courage to rise. And as he looked to the horizon, he knew that life would always test him. But one thing was certain, no one would ever underestimate him again. The camera pans to Jamal's window, the sun rising, casting golden light on his face, a new day, a new beginning, and in the distance, a shadowed figure watches silently from across the street, notebook in hand, whispering to themselves, "He won this battle, but the war isn't over."